it's Bella from Bella Luna Investigations. Today I'm going to be answering paranormal questions. I'm going to start doing more videos like this where I just sit down and talk about like anything paranormal, my paranormal experiences, answering more questions, tips, whatever. I have a list of questions right here, so I will be reading all of them and giving my answers. Thank you to anybody who gave me questions to answer. I really appreciate it, and I'm excited to do this video. My first question is, do you believe you have psychic abilities? So I identify as a sensitive. I don't feel like I fit into like the medium or that kind of labeling. I can sense energy, I can hear, sometimes I can see, but mostly I picture in my head. It's kind of hard to explain to somebody who doesn't like have the same thing. It's not like I physically see them, but I can picture them in my head. I know what they're wearing, I know what they look like, I know what they're doing, how they're standing, etc. I believe spirits show themselves as whatever they want to appear as. They can appear as orbs, energies. Sometimes they don't even want to be seen at all, so they don't really show themselves very easily. And they can also change their appearance. It depends on how long they've been a spirit or how much they know how to like control things. I've had things like, I have had an experience where a spirit showed himself as a tall black figure, and then later he showed himself as an older man, which was really what he looked like. And he could do unnatural things with his body, like he was crawling through the ceiling. That was a great night. He tried to scare everybody. It was fun though. They can come back as whatever age they want to. I've had an experience with some teenagers. They didn't die as teenagers, but they were teenagers. I believe I'm going to talk about that later. So it's just really what they want to appear as, in my opinion. Of course, I don't know everything, whatever. Some spirits might not know how to do that, so they might just appear as how they died or whatever. This has gone very off track. So to like sum this question up, I noticed the longer I investigate and the more I do, the stronger my abilities get. So I do believe if you can only do little things, like since I started off with sensing energies, and now I can picture, see, whatever. So I believe the more you practice, the better you'll get at it. That's just from my experience. It's just like playing a sport or doing any kind of other hobby. The more you do it, the better you get at it. So that's what I've learned. My next question is, do you think you need psychic abilities to investigate? I believe you don't have to have any. Sure, it's helpful to have a psychic, medium, sensitive, whatever in your group, but you don't need it. As long as you know what you're doing with your equipment and you know good questions to ask, I know you can have a pretty thorough investigation just knowing what you're doing. And then to follow up with that question, what's my favorite equipment? My two favorite things to use are Estes and dowsing rods. I have found that the dowsing rods work really well because some spirits are afraid of the electronical equipment, and dowsing rods have been around forever, so normally they're familiar with those. They used to be used to find water sources, like all kinds of different things. They have had many uses. I believe different tools work better for certain people though, so you really just have to practice to find your tool that works the best for you. But for my dowsing rods, they tend to move really easily for me. I don't have any issues about them being slow or whatever. I have gotten very good at asking yes or no questions, and it really just takes practice to get used to the yes and no questions with dowsing rods. I like to use the dowsing rods with my intuition, so all the questions I asked are based off my intuition and what I'm feeling. So I normally get names or age ranges. With names, I normally ask them what like the first letter of their name is. So for an example, I would ask, does your name start with J? And if it's a yes, I would just list off J names, tell them to cross whenever I hit their name. So I would like have the rods out straight, and I'd be naming names that start with J. So like Jake, Jacob, whatever. When I hit their name, they'll cross it for me. I tend to see that works very well for names, which that just works for me. It's different for everybody, of course. And then also with age ranges, I normally ask, like, oh, is your age between 40 and 50? And then they'll be like, yes. And then I'll be like, is it between 40 and 45? And they'll be like, yes. And then I'll just narrow it down from there. Now to switch gears is with Estes. Basically, Estes is a spirit box connected to noise canceling headphones, and you put a blindfold on, for those who don't know. The blindfold and headphones are for you to block out any other senses, to kind of put you in a meditative state, to be able to really focus on providing the answers. So people, like in your group, will ask questions and you say whatever you hear through the spirit box. Sometimes it won't make sense, sometimes I won't answer questions. That doesn't matter, you just say whatever you hear. So when I do it, I don't put a blindfold on. I just prefer to just close my eyes. It's easier for me and I like it because whenever I want to like come out of Estes, I can open my eyes. I don't have to worry about a blindfold. Also, another thing to add is I don't like it when it has static. I prefer Phasmabox, which is an app. I believe it's on Microsoft you have to have, but it's really nice because there's no static and it has different voice ranges. So when you have multiple spirits, it's really nice. So you can hear the different voice ranges, whether it's female, male, if it's deep, whatever, which is, like I said, really nice when there's multiple spirits because you can tell the difference and it's very, very easy to tell who's talking, which really you can only hear it, nobody else in your group. But when you come out of it and talk about what answers you were getting, you can provide that information. I normally am not a super big fan of electronics, but Estes and the REM Pod is one of my favorites to use electronical. Those are the only ones I'll really use. The rest of them are just not my kind of thing. But I find that those tend to work well and spirits aren't as scared as them as other electronics. So the next question is, what are some good apps you recommend for ghost hunting? Some good free apps on your phone is GhostTube, and I prefer the basic GhostTube, but there's also ones as GhostTube Vox, which I can find to be a little janky. It's just an online spirit box, but it just doesn't work well for me, which it might work well for somebody else. And then the other one is GhostTube SLS. That one is the one with the stick figures, and you just really have to work on debunking with that one. So it's not really my favorite, but I will use it from time to time. I like these because you can get vocabulary upgrades. So when you can just have the app open while walking around a house or location, whatever, and you can go back and look. It tells you the time, the date, what the word said. So it's really nice to have that, especially, so I do recommend getting the upgrade. But you have to be careful if you're not getting a ton of activity. The app likes to spit out random words such as like demon, murder, just crazy terms like that are very uncommon in my opinion. So you have to be careful because sometimes it's just like I said, bizarre things. And you're like, that doesn't really fit the location. So you have to pay attention to that. I think it's just like how the app is programmed. If there's not any activity, it just starts spitting out things. And then another app I recommend is Ghost Hunting Tools. I like that one because you can add custom vocabulary such as your names, the location you're in, history from the location, whatever. So it's nice to have that. But I do prefer GhostTube over that. And both of those apps, well actually all 4 of those apps are free on the App Store and you can get them on your phone. It's so easy to have. I find that they work as good as expensive equipment, so you don't really have to splurge. Next question is, can spirits attach themselves to you or follow you home? Yes, this can be a common occurrence if you don't protect yourself. The number one thing to do when investigating is protect yourself. I like to wear protective jewelry. I wear a Celtic cross because my mother is Irish. I also wear hematite because that is kind of my crystal. I feel like it's good at protecting me. And then next, I have a Gorny horn because my dad is Italian. And then I have a Celtic knot moon to tie into the Irish roots. And I have an Ankh cross because I've been told to get it and wear it before. I also wear crystal bracelets. Most of these include hematite, obsidian, tiger's eye. There's a couple with amethyst. some halite, Dalmatian jasper, and pyrite. And then another thing you can do is just wear jewelry you feel like protects you, stuff from family members that have been passed, whatever, like passed on from person, sorry. You can wear any kind of religious symbol, whatever you feel like protects you. Anything that you want to protect you, wear it. Trust me, it'll help. Another thing to do is spray yourself with protection spray. I currently don't have mine with me, but I do have my empath spray. I make my own. I have like rosemary, dragon's blood, sage, Palo Santo in it, crystals, herbs. Really, I think it helps. I spray myself before I get in my car, and then that's kind of it. I feel like it works better than saging because, well, not better than saging, it's easier than saging. You can always sage too, but with that, you have to burn it and you have to put it out, and it's also very strong smelling. This spray is easy. You can carry it on you. Just spritz yourself, get in your car, and then leave. Another good thing to practice is when leaving, roll down your windows and say, "Nothing can follow you." Anything along those lines of "nothing can follow you." What I say is nothing is allowed to follow me or come home with me. I don't care where you go. You can go back to wherever you came from or go to the light. You just can't come home with me. That's my thing. I say it in my head because that's what I'm most comfortable with, but make sure to be stern so you don't seem scared, whatever. You just have to be stern and firm, so be like in charge, because really nothing can follow you home. If you don't want it to follow you home, it won't follow you home. What has been your favorite paranormal location you've been? Out of all the places I've been, Belvoir Winery in Liberty, Missouri, and Mineral Springs in Alton, Illinois has been my favorite. When I was in Belvoir, all the buildings were open, which they're now close to being storm damaged. There is a winery that used to be the orphanage on the property. There's a nursing home, hospital, and old folks home, which those three are now vacant and they are basically abandoned. Belvoir really has great stories to tell with very many spirits. My two favorite locations were the nursing home. There was a trickster's old man spirit who was bored and he just wanted to scare and prank the guests who came in, which was kind of funny. I did touch on him earlier. And then my second location was the hospital in the teen wing. There was a hallway, and like I said, it was the teen wing. There was 3 teenagers. There was Heather, Gabriel, and Jonathan. They were in the hospital around the 80s. Jonathan was terminally ill with cystic fibrosis. I struggle saying that. He said it felt like his lungs were on fire. Heather was in the hospital for mental health related complications, and Gabriel was commonly in and out of the hospital because his father was an abusive drunk. They were all 16 when they met in the hospital. Being stuck there, they all became best friends. They grew up and left the hospital, but they came back as teens because that's when they remember each other, and so they can also reclaim their being teens. They never got to do the basic stuff teenagers their age did because they were all stuck in the hospital. They get to enjoy doing regular things teens did. Mineral Springs is my second favorite location because there is such a story to tell. There's very many different spirits there, and I've only been there once, but I hope to revisit again so I can learn more about the location, but it's definitely a very active place. It seemed like I was looking off to the side a lot. It was hard to get all that information memorized, so I was looking at all my notes, and I don't want to get any details wrong. So I made sure to get every detail in that one right. With that question, what has been my scariest/weirdest experience? The scariest time was in Dodge City at the train depot in Kansas. This was my first time really doing a very in-depth investigation. I've done them before then, but this is my first time really getting into it and doing it. I had been using my dowsing rods and basic equipment before this location, but this time I was doing Estes for the first time. I had my feet dangling off the stage doing Estes. I had a blindfold on at the time, and there was a very strong presence there. I could feel him off to the side of me, and then he came behind me. It got very cold. And so it was normal conversation, and then all of a sudden he started saying my name very, very fast. And then followed it by push her, push her. And like I said, my feet were dangling off the stage, so if somebody pushed me, I would fall. Everybody in my group then got up and yelled, "No, don't push her, like don't touch her," whatever. And I was taken out of Estes. We then had the spirit box out, no headphones plugged in, it was just running. He then started saying some threats and not some nice things. He started like cursing and things along those lines. The box then said fire, and there was a spark at the bottom of the stage. And so some people got up, they checked, there was nothing that could have started that. It was like just wood under there, nothing electrical that could have sparked, nothing. So it was very unusual. That was like the first time I've experienced that. And then by this point, I was sitting in my chair at the table we had in the room, and all of a sudden I felt the urge to like pick up my feet and like put them in my chair, if that makes sense. And then one of the ladies that's my friend, she mentioned that he was now crawling on the floor. So that was interesting. He then tried to follow us out the building, but I believe he was stopped because there was upstairs and there was the dorms for the Harvey girls, and the lady who was in charge of them and took care of them was a spirit there, and I believe she stopped him from following us out into this other building, because this building was the side building. I'm not very good at explaining things, so this is probably very confusing. It's alright. But then when we got in our car, there was a charger cord wrapped around our steering wheel and tied. And when we got out of the car, my phone was plugged in, so I remember this. I unplugged it and I laid it into my passenger seat. And I remember this so vividly. And when we got in the car to leave, it was tangled around the steering wheel, like you said. And it was tied. It's not like it could just magically happen. It was literally tied around the steering wheel. So somebody had to do it. And my weirdest experience is we were in the investigation in the small boutique. And it was just like, it was supposed to be haunted by the lady who owned its mother and the previous owners. And we just were there. We thought it would just be a fun thing to do. I think it was around Halloween, so I think it was just like some kind of fun Halloween activity. The lady then asked me to come over and look to see this bathroom by the dressing rooms. She was getting a weird vibe from it, and she wanted to see if I was getting it too. So I walked in there, and I could feel something like squeezing into the corners, trying to get away. And then we left the bathroom, continued our investigation, whatever. I kind of forgot about it. Then I guess going into the bathroom, gave whatever was in there the invitation to come out. And it was this tall, skinny figure that was all black, nubby limbs, and one big eye. I think I have a sketch of it, actually. Let's see. Okay, I do. We're not gonna judge my drawing skills, okay? That's kind of what he looked like, or whatever it was. I don't know why I'm saying he. It was weird. I haven't ever seen something like it before or since then. I don't like to talk to things that I don't believe aren't human, because that didn't have human vibes. I don't think yeah. We did find out the neighbor next door committed suicide in the shop, and that could have been him, and it just manifests something like that. But I don't know. I'm not really wanting to know. But by that point, when I saw that thing, I was kind of done investigating. I didn't want to talk to it, so I was just kind of standing by the door watching everybody else, and they were doing Estes, and the lady was sitting in the chair, and I could see this thing leaning over her like this and feeding her answers, and he was pretending to be the previous shop owner, and he was giving all these names, and oh, this was my shop in this very area, this very building, whatever. And he was not the shop owner. He just wasn't. So yep, that was definitely the weirdest thing ever. I haven't experienced anything like it since then or before then. So what's the different types of hauntings you've experienced / believe in? I've only talked to spirits who were once human, minus whatever the last thing was. Well, I didn't speak to it. I didn't speak to it. The previous story is my only experience with that thing, like I said. I believe there are different types of spirits, such as cryptids, creatures, whatever. It's just not my thing. I'm not connected to those things. I don't really want to be. I'm not very interested in it. I believe people can connect to those things, and those are whatever they connect with. People connect to different things, communicate differently, whatever. Just not my thing. Like I'm not saying that things like, oh, that's not real, whatever. I'm just saying I'm not connected to it. I don't speak to it. I don't see it. I don't want to, whatever. Like, it's just not my thing. So, every person's different. Where do I find haunted locations? I recommend just keeping your eye out online for ghost tours, investigations, whatever. Just be careful because some are hokey. You just really never know with some of those. The best time to look is around Halloween because everybody just wants to do a ghost tour for the spooky vibe. So a lot of them are just open during October and Halloween. A group I like to investigate with is Haunted Souls Paranormal. Dan, who runs it, he's very funny to go on investigations, but then he doesn't let anything bad happen. It's not crazy, like people are getting shoved and pushed and scratched. Like, he doesn't let that happen. He provides the equipment you can use. You just like give him your ID and then rent it out, and then you can run the whole building, whatever. And you just split up in 2 groups in the very beginning. You do a rotation, and then you have hours just to run the whole building by yourself with his equipment, which is very cool. And I like doing that because I get to have my own time to go to places we didn't go with the groups. And another easy way to like find just places is just walk around your town, discover historical locations, older buildings, whatever. History and old buildings go really hand in hand with ghosts and hauntings, so that's just a really good way to find things on your own. Another thing to look for is when the veil is very thin. I find that the veil is thin between like September, and it kind of starts slowing down in December, so that's kind of your like area to get really good, strong activity. And you have to keep an open mind while investigating because you never know if you're shutting something out. When I was in Belvoir, we were in the old folks home, and there was a teenage boy there who haunts it, and he used to go there when the building was vacant and abandoned, and he would just hang out there. That was his spot to hang out. He would do whatever. And a lot of people were shutting him out, and I would mention, oh, there's this boy here, and they were like, huh? And they just wouldn't talk to him, and all he wanted was like to share his story and whatever, but everybody shut him out because they were expecting to talk to somebody older from the old folks home. So those are my tips to find good places or just find haunted locations. I kind of mentioned this in my last question, but when's the best time to do paranormal investigations? Like I said, the veil is the thinnest through September and kind of starts slowing down during December. The veil is the wall between the living and the dead. So I find it makes communication easier during the fall because it's easier for them to communicate with you. It doesn't take as much energy for them, whatever. So that's just my best time to investigate because of the veil. The location you want to go to. I like to go to many different locations. I have traveled a bit for it. I normally go down south, but a place I really want to go to is Gettysburg. But I'm saving that because I want to make it a very big and important trip, and I want to do everything I want to there. But that's pretty much my top place because it's so packed full of history and spirits. Because I am also a history lover. I want to do historic preservation. So when I get to do history and preservation and ghosts, that's kind of like my perfect trip. Some etiquette I should practice. This is very important, and I'm planning to do a whole different video on it because there's just so much etiquette you need to just whatever. But the main thing is just to be respectful. The spirits were human once. They still basically are. They just don't have a body. They're just like us. I cannot just stress this enough. Just be respectful, be nice, be kind, treat them like you would a living person. They were living ones too, like I said. This makes me so mad when people disrespect them because it's just, why? Don't interrogate, Don't be mean. Don't be rude. That just makes them mad and ruins everybody's experiences. And it's just, don't anger the spirits. They can have emotions. They're people too. If they don't want to speak to you, they don't have to. You're not going to force them to speak to you, because why would you do that to a living person? So that's just my main thing. You don't want to be the jerk that ruins everybody's investigation. Also, another thing is I've been on an investigation, and the people who led it, there was a man, and we were in a church, and there was a spirit of a pastor, and he was very mad because he didn't like us speaking to him or spirits. So he was like livid. Like when I like get the feeling of a spirit being angry, it's like a shaking kind of like angry. It's very distinct. And I was telling the man who was running the investigations in that area, like in the church, he goes, he can't be mad. Spirits can't be mad. They don't have emotions. That ticked me off, because why wouldn't they have emotions? That just made me mad. And he was also the one who was like, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that. So when you have people on investigations like that, it just ruins your whole experience that day or night, whatever. So just don't be that person. That's all I have on my list for today. Feel free to comment more questions or go to my other social medias. I'm on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, all under bellaluna.investigations. So feel free to go follow me there. I really appreciate it, and thank you for tuning in. Bye!